Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at a topic that, well, it feels like it's everywhere right now. Semaglutide, weight loss.
Right. Absolutely.
But if you're expecting the usual conversation, prescriptions, side effects, calories, maybe think again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What we've got here, the source material, it looks at this whole thing through a really different lens.
Totally different. We've got mainly a personal reflection from someone who met this guy, Dan Hollis, and then there's this description of his framework.
His human-centered framework for semaglutide and weight loss. That's what he calls it. And it really pushes back against the standard way of thinking.
Yeah, so our mission really is to explore that perspective today. Because the interesting thing, the hook, is that this guy, Hollis, his approach isn't actually about selling weight loss. Not really.
No, it introduces these other concepts you wouldn't normally link to it, like
Yeah.
silence, truth, confusion, even identity.
It's pretty deep stuff. And when you read it, it does make you pause. It might genuinely make you rethink, everything you thought about why weight loss is such a struggle for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start there. The first source highlights this core idea of the conventional wisdom. The world thinks being overweight or fat is just about food, right?
Right. Calories in, calories out, discipline, willpower, all that stuff you can, measure and try to control.
That's the story we always hear.
That is the dominant narrative, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the writer, reflecting on meeting Dan Hollis, they come away thinking it's actually about, well, something else.
Something vague but intriguing.
Something deeper. And honestly, kind of harder to grasp at first.
Okay, so what is this something else? Because
Yeah.
Hollis isn't talking about diets. The source says his angle is decoding emotional amnesia.
Decoding emotional amnesia, that phrase itself just stops you.
Right.
It immediately shifts the focus. It's not metabolic anymore. It's memory, emotion, the unconscious maybe.
Yeah.
And this is where that quote from Hollis really stands out in the source material. He says, "Semaglutide gives you silence, and silence gives you truth."
Whoa. Okay. Silence gives you truth. Let's just unpack that. Semaglutide, a weight loss drug. Its main gift is silence. What does the source mean by that?
Well, the explanation given is that for a lot of people who struggle with weight, their inner world is just noisy, really noisy.
Okay.
It's filled with what the writer calls food talking. Constant thoughts about eating, cravings, guilt about what you ate, planning the next meal.
Oh, I see. That internal chatter.
Exactly. Obsessing. And this medication, by lowering the physical drive to eat, it apparently just turns the volume way down on all that internal noise.
So the silence isn't literal silence, it's quieting the food noise.
Precisely. And the source claims that for some people, stepping into that quiet, it's the first honest moment they've had in 20 years.
20 years of never really hearing themselves over the food talking. Wow. That's intense.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it reframes the whole idea of failure, too. Like, if someone stops the drug.
Yeah.
Hollis suggests they don't just relapse back into hunger, they relapse into confusion.
Confusion. Why confusion? Wouldn't it just be, the hunger coming back, the noise?
Well, the source suggests that the silence itself, while it sounds great, can actually be kind of terrifying for some people.
How so?
It can feel like losing a favorite lie. Maybe that constant focus on food, the noise, was actually serving a purpose.
Like a distraction.
Yeah, maybe masking uncomfortable feelings or avoiding difficult truths. Maybe it provided some weird sense of comfort or control. So when the noise suddenly stops, bam, you're face to face with whatever you were using the food noise to avoid.
And that's confusing, disorienting.
Profoundly confusing, the source implies.
Okay, so the real issue wasn't necessarily the food itself, but what the focus on food was maybe papering over.
That seems to be the idea. Which leads to this really powerful reframing that the first source talks about. The real headline, according to this view, isn't "lose weight fast."
Right, or zap your appetite.
No, it's "what if you weren't broken, just confused?"
Ah, that shift. Broken versus confused, that's huge.
It is. Broken feels permanent, like something's fundamentally wrong with you. Confused suggests a state you can understand, navigate, maybe find your way out of with the right map.
Okay. And importantly, the source is clear. Hollis's approach isn't just about the pill. It's not just, here's your semaglutide, good luck.
Not at all. It's very specifically about what you do with that quiet space the medication gives you, how you're guided through it.
Right.
He's described as building scaffolding in the space semaglutide opens. The drug creates the opportunity, the window, but the framework is the structure you need to actually build something meaningful in that space.
Okay, the scaffolding, the structure. This brings us to the second source, which lays out the Dan Hollis protocol.
Yeah, and it's described not as some rigid formula, but as a human-centered framework.
Mm.
And I thought this was interesting. It's framed as a conversation.
A conversation. Between
Yeah.
what?
Between your biology, which the drug affects your behavior, so your habits, and what they call your emotional blueprint, those deeper truths that kind of bubble up in the silence.
Got it. Biology, behavior, blueprint.
And the medication is the tool, the thing that opens the window to change. But the real work is engaging in that conversation, using the window.
Okay, let's break down the parts of this framework then from that second source, the pillars of the scaffolding. First one, start with silence.
Right back to that core concept. The quote here is, when the cravings stop, the truth begins.
Okay.
So the physical hunger turned down, you actually have the bandwidth, the capacity to just observe what emotions come up, what thoughts, what discomforts, things that may be used to just trigger reaching for food as comfort or distraction.
And the instruction isn't fix it now, it's just listen.
Just listen.
Yeah.
Listen to what surfaces in that new quiet. That's step one.
Okay. So you get the silence, you start listening. What's next in this conversation?
Point two is rewire the rituals. This is key. The source says, every pound lost is a habit that needs replacing, not just removing.
Replacing, not just removing.
Okay,
Okay.
think about it. Food rituals are often these deeply wired neurological habits. Like, you always grab a cookie at 3 p.m., right?
Yeah.
Even if, on semaglutide, you're not actually feeling physically hungry then, the habit loop is still there.
Ah, so the drug helps you see the habit more clearly because the physical drive isn't masking it anymore.
Exactly. It makes the habit visible. And then you can consciously choose something different. Instead of the cookie, maybe it's, I don't know, a quick walk, calling someone, writing in a journal. You actively replace the old ritual.
Which leads to something I found really fascinating.
Right.
Point three, anchor identity before the weight drops.
Yes. This was highlighted as absolutely critical. The quote is stark. Your body changes faster than your identity. That's
Yeah.
the trap.
The trap.
People might see the scale moving down, maybe quite fast, but their internal sense of self, who they are, who they believe themselves to be, their self-worth, their ingrained patterns that can lag way behind the physical changes.
So you're looking different, but you still feel like the old you inside, the one who struggled.
Precisely. And the framework argues this mismatch, this gap, is a huge reason why people regain weight. Because if your underlying identity still says, I'm someone who struggles with food, I use food to cope, I don't really deserve this success.
Your brain kind of pulls you back, tries to make the outside match the inside again.
That's the idea. It can unconsciously sabotage your progress to bring reality back into line with that old internal story. So this identity work, even though it's invisible, the source claims it's actually more important than the bounds coming off. You have to actively ask, who am I becoming now? And start anchoring that new identity.
That makes a ton of sense. It's like your software needs an update to match the new hardware.
Exactly. Good analogy.
Okay, point four is pace the process.
Right? Fast results don't mean lasting results. Pacing is protection. This really pushes back against that lose 30 pounds in 30 days mentality.
Yeah.
Hollis advocates for metabolic pacing, not speed. But it's not just about letting your body adjust physically.
Mm-hmm.
Your emotional self, your psychological self needs time too. Time to process the truths coming up in the silence, time to build those new rituals, time to integrate that new identity.
So trying to go too fast, even if the drug allows it physically, could lead to a kind of emotional or psychological crash.
That's the warning. Rushing the internal integration can lead to collapse later on. Pacing protects the whole system.
Speed isn't the goal, sustainable changes. Okay, what about the end game? Point five. Plan the off-ramp from day one.
I mean, this feels a bit weird at first, doesn't it? You're just starting. Why think about stopping? But the argument is the real work begins after the medication. Because relapse, when it happens, often isn't because the drug wore off. It's because those underlying emotional patterns, the behavioral habits, the confusion that was being quieted, it all resurfaces once the drug support is removed.
Ah, so you need to build the skills and the internal structure while you have the benefit of the quiet so you're prepared when the volume potentially goes back up later.
Exactly that. You anticipate life after the medication right from the start, using the window to address the root causes, not just suppress the symptoms.
Makes sense. Point six, build the scaffolding. We mentioned this earlier.
Yeah, and the quote here is powerful. Support isn't optional. It's neurobiological scaffolding.
Neurobiological scaffolding. Wow.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that this deep internal work, It's not meant to be done alone in a vacuum. You need external support structures.
What kind of support?
It lists things like emotional support, obviously, but also community, structure, and even developing the right language to understand, talk about what you're experiencing internally.
Finding the words for it.
Finding the words, and there's an interesting distinction made. AI can give you information, data, but humans provide meaning, context, relationship. And the source says you need both.
Data and meaning. Got it. Support isn't a nice to have. It's essential wiring for the brain to change.
Hmm.
Okay, last point. 7. Rewrite the narrative.
This ties everything together, really. Weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative.
Biology versus narrative.
The medication can handle a lot of the biological side of losing weight, but
Yeah.
maintaining that change, keeping it off, according to this framework, that comes down to the stories you tell yourself inside your own head.
Stories about, like, past failures
Yeah.
or feeling like you're inherently flawed or not worthy.
Exactly. No matter how effective a drug is at a biological level, it can't fight a core internal narrative that says, I always screw this up, or this healthy version isn't the real me, or I don't deserve to feel good.
So the framework actively helps people identify those self-sabotaging stories.
And change them. Create a new narrative, one that actually aligns with the person they're becoming, the changes they're making.
So, okay, looking at all 7 points. The silence, the rituals, identity, pacing, planning the off-ramp, scaffolding, narrative. It really is a massive shift, isn't it?
It's huge. It moves the whole conversation away from just biology and willpower.
Towards identity.
Towards identity, yeah. Away from just seeing the medication as a magic bullet.
With seeing it as a tool for finding deeper meaning.
Right. And shifting from shame about being broken.
To building structure around being confused, understanding the confusion.
And moving from just experiencing the initial silence.
To having a proactive strategy for what to do with that silence and beyond.
And this, the source argues, is how real transformation holds. It's not just about the number on the scale changing temporarily. It's about fundamentally rewiring your relationship with yourself, with food, with your internal world.
And circling back to that first source, after going through this kind of process, the realization for many becomes,
it was never about the food. Not really. Not fundamentally.
wow, okay. This framework, it offers such a different perspective, doesn't it? Especially if you, listening, have struggled with weight or dieting or just complex patterns around eating.
Yeah, it provides a potential roadmap, maybe, for understanding what might be going on underneath the surface,
Okay.
addressing that underlying confusion, those emotional drivers, whether medication is involved or not, actually.
It gives you a sense of what the real work might be once the immediate physical noise is turned down, what you need to build.
So just to reiterate that core idea,
Uh-huh.
in this Dan Hollis framework, semaglutide isn't just a weight loss drug. It's more like a tool.
A tool that creates silence.
A tool that creates silence, yeah. And that silence opens a window, offered onto some pretty uncomfortable truths, requiring real, intentional work, the scaffolding, the identity anchoring, the narrative rewriting, to build something that actually lasts.
So a final thought then, maybe for you listening, if this idea resonates, that silence gives you truth. And maybe if we often use external things, food, sure, but maybe also, I don't know, constant scrolling, being busy all the time, to avoid that silence.
To avoid the truths it might hold.
Yeah. What other parts of your life might benefit from creating a bit more intentional quiet? And if you did find some quiet, are you prepared for the truth that might show up? Are you ready to think about the scaffolding, the identity work, the narrative you'd need to build around them?
What stories about yourself might you be too full, metaphorically speaking, too distracted maybe to even start rewriting?